Alright, so I found this clip and it really brings back the time and how people thought. And I found this through. How did I find this? Oh, because I was trying to figure out the whole reason of the Dungeons and Dragons thing, because back in the day, like, no one's parents would let them play because apparently it was evil and demonic. And then the reason, I guess, was, I mean, the real reality of it. This is why I hate conspiracies. So this is actually a good example of why I'm like just anti it. I'm not talking about like little aliens. You could think in aliens and stuff, but conspiracies just in general, like when you're talking about, a bunch of people died in a situation like Alex Jones type shit. Like, I hate that because it'll be based on something that really happened, and then it just discredits the reality of things that happen, and it's harmful to the victims of it. So like something that doesn't have like a victim on the other side, go at it. Like aliens and Illuminati, I don't know, like any of that stuff, like, it's totally different than these types of conspiracies. So the really sad thing about the Dungeons and Dragons things, which it's just so insane, because I went reading through it and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, like they literally overlook men's mental health in this whole thing, when there was like two guys that they used to play Dungeons and Dragons. It could be anything. You could have been playing Pac-Man, and then they all of a sudden went, "Oh, the devil did it." So I guess the first story was about this one boy, and he was really smart. He had a over 140 IQ, and he was also mentally disabled and possibly autistic. Something weird. There was this whole thing on him. Anyways, he used to play Dungeons and Dragons. It wasn't anything unusual. And he was obviously suicidal. Like, he was depressed. Like, there was something going on. And so you already know that his parents were these psychotic fundamentalists. And he had no one to go to. Like, I'm sure the answer, because back then, was always, well, you need to pray. You need to pray. And he never got the mental help that he needed, right? And this is what we're assuming, because then the outcome of this, so then maybe he was playing the game before he died. We're not sure. I mean, they were trying to make up all sorts of stuff with it. And then he goes somewhere and then kills himself, I guess. And then they link that somehow to the devil, because obviously there's no other logical explanation for this. So yeah, obviously the devil. So here we have a situation where a conspiracy was made and avoided the actual reality of what was going on. So then the next issue happened, right? So this is pre doing any mass shootings or any. These guys are not violent. So I mean, and who knows if they would have been, at that time, but they weren't violent. They didn't take out anybody or anything like that. Which is a different type of thing. But they there was another one where a similar thing happened, where he played Dungeons and Dragons, and the mom's thinking on this was, there's a curse on the game, obviously, not that my son may be suffering from mental illness, because they didn't believe in God allowing anybody to be mentally ill. There was this whole thing on that. I vaguely remember a lot of that. There was a whole thing like, oh, you can just pray like your problems away. Blah 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 blah. Anything that you have, if voices are in your head and all that, oh, that's just God. That's just the devil. You just pray it away. So they did that. And so then they ignored mental health issues with men, right? So we have this long ongoing issue with men's mental health and other things related, and rape and all sorts of messed up things. And but particularly like with men's mental health, with being depressed and all this stuff. So these kids, these sons, are like trying to get their mom, maybe to like help. They don't know, they don't have the language there to know what's wrong, because mom's saying that's the God and the devil, and then they just lose out. Like, maybe they didn't even believe in what their parents thought. Like, we don't even know, because they're not here anymore. But they turned it into this big conspiracy. And I always wonder, I was like, where in the hell did that come from? The whole thing with the Dungeons and Dragons thing. I don't know if my brother played. My dad wasn't. My family was not religious, thank God. I was the religious one. I think I had annoyed everybody else more than anything else. Like my brother went to church, I went to church, but it was like my choice. Like one day I was just always like so obsessed with churches and wanting to go, wanting to be a nun, and that was just my phase when I was a kid. Like some people get into that and some don't, and for whatever reason that was my whole shebang as a kid. I don't know why. um no, I do know why, because of the Reader's Digest with that picture of Jesus, right? So I just love this artwork. It was just basically about a piece of artwork, and everything was about artwork, because even the Foursquare church that we went to, I think I actually got to choose that we got to go there because I was obsessed with that window. It was like this very artistic stained glass window, and for whatever reason when I was a kid I was so in awe with this damn window. Don't ask me, when you're kids you and I think I had wanted to go there, and my dad just probably was like, okay, whatever, we'll send you guys to there for preschool or whatever that was before that guy almost touched me. But yeah, so a lot of that like was stem from that, and then I wanted to go to church, and then I wanted to go to Catholic church, and then my dad said no, 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 which I thought was odd because the Catholic, it may have also been because it costs money, but you would think that he would have been like, oh, cool, go, because they wanted you to wear uniforms, and he hated how I dressed because I wore every weird thing under the sun. And I was like, I want to go to Catholic school now. This is my weird phase, right? I had this idea of it, and I can go there and be rebellious. I don't know. I had this like weird thing going on in my head at that time. And then come to find out later, they had a couple of those molesting priests over there. Thank God. So I mean, we kind of just dodged a bullet. I mean, I don't know if they touched any of the kids in the Catholic school, because I don't know if it was all girls or if it was a combo of girls and boys. I don't remember. But we knew some people that went there, and there was at least, I think they said there was at least 3 or up to 7, I'm not sure, at that Catholic church. And we had gone there for different things, like friends' weddings maybe, and maybe a funeral, or just on Easter. Like we went on these weird occasions. Like my parents did not go to church, okay? It was like, can we go to church? And like they don't really do that. They go for like Christmas, like, how everybody does it. Like this is the traditional thing to do. They did that. But we didn't have any of that weird stuff. And people talk about soaping and stuff. I'm like, that stuff is from fundamentalist homes where they did that. They tried to do that at the church, and my dad was not down with that. They didn't do soaping. We didn't have soaping in our house. And if they did, I was so little, and he was not down with anybody doing that at that time. But he tried to hit me once with the damn belt, and that was it. That was it. That was like the last time I let him do that. And no, I wouldn't let him do it anymore. So the weird shit with the toys. So anyway, I go search for it, and it had this guy who looks like, they were saying he looks like Donald Trump Jr., the son, one of the sons. And when I first saw him, I was like, he looks kind of like Milo. He reminds me of Milo. And I was like, no, if Milo and Trump's son mated, that's what he looks like. And his name is Phillips or something like that. The redundant name, like Eric Erickson, him too. He's another fundy dude. And I'm like, what is with these redundant names? But anyway, I don't know who this guy is. The other guy, I don't know. I may have seen him before, but it's insane. I guess his name is Gary Greenwald. But they go on this whole thing about demonic toys. And it is so hilarious, this one part. He goes on to talk about the, where is it?
For the universe, He-Man is. He-Man is more powerful than Jesus Christ.
He-Man is more powerful than Jesus Christ.
More power than Jesus. He-Man has more power than Jesus.
They go on every single doll that was totally popular during like the 80s and stuff, and how demonic they are, and some other weird crap that you would never think of that makes this humorous. It wasn't humorous at the time because these people these people were in control, full force, dude. These were everybody's parents. These were everybody. You can't play with this because it's bad. It's evil. It has a curse. It has this. And I'm surprised they let me play. Man, they had Rainbow Bright on here. They had My Little Pony on here. And then, but this part on the Dungeons and Dragons part, like, is more hilarious because they go on about how these parts were screaming in the fire. And then they go, there's this funniest part on it where they go, Anton said there's no such thing as a white witch. It's not in the Bible. Something about that, right? That it was. I had to sit back and listen to it again because I was like, no, there's some witches that will sit there and tell you you're full of shit. But I listened to it again, and what he said was that Anton said that the white, like, nothing about white witches in the Bible, right? So then they go, the other guy goes, oh yeah, well, he would know because he's a Satanist. Some bullshit like that, right? Well, I'll play it on here, but you're sitting there thinking like, okay, but you two are supposed to be the righteous. I know everything about the Bible, and a Satanist knows the Bible more than you guys. Like, that's how it came off. Like, they're just total idiots, and Anton's just like trolling like all this. Like, that's really what that was all about back then. And just with these theatrics and these weird things, and they even told me they're all, this is just all theatrics. Like, it's not you don't need any of this. Like, I don't know, like, I think just people had a thing to really fight back on this, and we're kind of hitting an era of that again in a really weird way. And I don't know why they're trying to act like these people are somehow victims, like, now, and they're just writing this thing. And I'm like, okay, I know some of you were probably not born here yet, or you were, but not at a time where you would remember this. It was horrible. Horrible. It was horrible. It was just fighting the world. And I was actually religious at the time, which was just like this weird, like, counter thing going on with those people, the really crazy fundamentalists, which we always talk about when we're just slamming any of this stuff. And I never got that from Mormons or Buddhists or even Catholics. They were really kicked back. Like, they weren't banging at your door and trying to, like, jam you into church and doing this whole Jehovah Witness thing. Those people, oh, and I think Michael Jackson was one of those. No. Those people are bad. They'll stalk you, man. We had them come to a gas station. I was like, I don't want to talk to them. And I went to the gas station, and all of a sudden, here they are. I was like, no. Like, you can't get away from them. Like, they think they're doing something good, but you tell them, like, they don't know what consent is either. You tell them, I'm not interested, thank you, goodbye, and then they go force themselves. Like, they don't understand the word no, and that's why there's a lot of rape and all this. Because they think they should have the right to, and they need to save you from death. And it's like, but you could tell them, like, I'm part of another church, which I did tell them, and they think that they need to save me from that church. It's just like, there's no winning in it. Like, once you're in it, it's like everybody's fighting to compete, and they'll sit there in church and go, those fake churches, they do that. Those fake churches and that other one, they're bad. You need to be here because we're the real thing. And that whole thing, and it's just like, oh my God, what is this? So this is just, you could laugh at this. I'm not laughing so much. I'm not laughing at the time because it was bad. I mean, just having people say all this stuff. But you could laugh now, but the seriousness in it is that this is kind of making a weird comeback in a way by Democrats. They're kind of being that in multi ways. Like, they were just talking about the First Amendment. I was like, it's not, right now it's not Republicans so much that are going after the First Amendment. Now, before they did, this is a weird thing. So before, Republicans are trying to mute my speech, and this is a back and forth thing now. So before, it was Republicans making sure that we can't speak and silencing us, and you can't say this, and you're not proper, and this is offensive, and no Republicans did that, like, big time. Now, it's like the shoe's on the other foot, right? So it's like, the Dems now are doing this whole thing like, you can't use hate speech and we want to ban this and and then I guess Facebook just did this thing where, I don't know, I'm reading posts on my thing because people post stuff on my Twitter feed and I read it and see what the hell the problem is. So I guess Facebook bans people that have a group called like Men Are Trash, and then allows a white supremacist thing. Oh, Breitbart, right? Because they allow them because they're political something. I'm like, well, no, it's all political. I mean, if you want to have a stance that you hate all white or all men or whatever, then you need to be able to have the counter to it, and you can't go back and forth and say, oh, they're banned here because we don't like that you don't like men. You don't have to like men. We're just not going to be friends, or whatever the bullshit is, if you're going to be like that. But I will be concerned if there's a group like that, or like Breitbart or any of those things get into power, because then that's when it really matters, and bad things will happen. But you have to let everybody have their room, and the only way to have them to ever change is to not ban them and have these discussions like over time, because over time the more information that people get, people tend to change their views, right? So we changed our views multiple times over a course of my whole life, right? And if you're not that type of person, then you're living life in a wrong way, because you should constantly be progressing in your belief systems because you're gaining more knowledge and it would change around a bit. So it doesn't mean you're going to all of a sudden turn into some raging Christian or something because you learned something. But some people do. They go on these phases where they never actually experience that. And then later on in life, then they go into that. Versus I had that by choice at a very young age. And then we started studying other stuff and got away from it. I just don't see any use for it. I just don't believe in it. But other people do. And if it was just like that, then it wouldn't be such a problem. But what's coming with it is a hell of a lot of hate and, you know, and crazy shit like this, right? So this is like, we gotta be diligent and not allow this to creep up again, because this was horrible. It was horrible because they thought this way, and then they threw their kids out and did weird shit, like, and ignored health issues, let everybody rape them, did a million things. It's just a horrible time. And some people look at this time period as being great because they're so brainwashed that they think like everything they did is so righteous, when they actually did a lot of harm to many, many people. And so when I look at stuff like this, I mean, I wish I could sit there and go, ha ha ha, through the whole thing, right? I mean, it is funny. But behind all of that, it was extraordinarily terrible. And they were trying to go after music, right? So a lot of people may have on my channel, I don't know, whoever's listening to this, we're not around yet, when they started going after music and trying to ban music because they said, metal, rock, and everything is satanic. So this whole thing was going on, and it's just arcade. Like, there was some guy, I guess he listened to like Judas Priest or something, and he committed suicide, or I don't know. There was all these stories like Ozzy did this, and then somebody else did that because of it, and I think even like Eminem, right? So in the hip hop world, like a fan did something crazy because they took a song and made it literal. I don't know, just bullshit. You have people like that, like they can't control. I mean, I'd say that there's like a there might be exceptions where, like, if that's the full message of what somebody's saying is trying to tell everybody else to go harm others or some weird thing like that, if that is the direct message, then I think that then you would have some room for that. But in these cases, it was nothing like that. It's just somebody going through a story and trying to make humor of it, and very dark humor. And then, and then another one actually trying to actually talk about those health issues in a certain way that people can take in. And some people just miss the message. Or they're just really mentally ill and they take it. It wouldn't even matter what you say to them. But a lot, oh my god. So anyway, so we're gonna go through this and then talk about it, because it's ridiculous. But it's so ridiculous, but just imagine this. If you were not alive at this time, that this is how people fought. Like, really how people fought. And I'm looking at it now, and I'm just like, I think it's as crazy as it was back then. Like, that stance hasn't changed. It's just scary because it's like, I don't know how people got there. How did they get there this way? Like, no part of their brain is going, yeah, that sounds a little crazy. But no, but they're calling me crazy. I'm like, no, I'm usually the one telling everybody that this shit ain't real. I'm not the one having hallucinations that God came to me and told me to go do these weird things. And things are screaming in the fire. Maybe if you asked me way back when, as a kid, when I was younger, I may have told you some weird things because this is how this kind of rolled.
Do not think that many parents are aware of what's inside the game. In fact, in my presentation, I show many pictures from the inside of the books just to show the images of this game. I mean, the gruesomeness of this game and the occult link to it.
Well, I know that when I did my message, and this has happened, I have letter after letter where people took the pieces. Now, there's sixes involved in the pieces of the game, but they take the pieces of the game, they would throw them in the incinerator or the fireplace, and screams would come out because there seemed to be some kind of spiritual forces inhabiting those pieces.
Skeletor, the master of the universe.
But today, there's a different kind of cartoon that's coming on our TV sets. And the question is there a well-organized plot, an insidious design right now to program and influence the minds of our children towards the occult and witchcraft?
Now in the PowerPoint drive, we see Skeletor in a classic lotus position of meditation. Legs crossed, palms on the knees, with the palms out.
So let's go and look at the Thundercats right now, who we saw are taken from heathen gods of the past. And, I mean, squirt guns that are so occultic.
You know, if E.T.'s an alien and he came down and he did all the things that he did and he died and was resurrected again, then what about Jesus? Maybe he was an alien.
And this has got to have some kind of a message to the children.
Oh, definitely. It says you can be demon-possessed and still be good.
Now, we're looking at occultic things. We're seeing things like the chest of demons and witches and Stonehenge, and Voltron is very similar to what we call the Transformer series, isn't he?
Yes, this is one of many robot series. Some of them are sexually oriented, but I didn't think much of it. I threw it in the back seat of my car.
He says the robot cartoons were sexually oriented. In his perverted mind, most of them were all boys. This is the funniest thing. Most of those robot ones were geared towards little boys. Like most of those cartoons, I watched some of them, but I don't remember all of them. But they were kind of boring to me because they were just like these robot guys, and they would fold out Transformers and stuff. They were fun to play with in person, but the cartoon or whatever it was. But he starts going in and sexualizing some of this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, we know you rape dolls. Like, I never looked at any cartoon and thought sex. But this guy's going on about Voltron being sexual. And another one watched later.
3 days later, I was driving home from these series of services, and the Lord spoke to me.
And what was that statement you made earlier, that God spoke to you and said what dolls would do?
And the Lord told me that children were being affected by these things, and that I...
Check this out. So the guy asked him, he's all, why don't you tell him what you said these dolls would do? And he changes it over to a different thing. And he probably told him, these dolls are raping me and not. I don't know, but he changed it. He changed his answer here.
And what was that statement you made earlier, that God spoke to you and said what dolls would do?
And the Lord told me that children were being affected by these things, and that
I heard that, and I was like, oh, what did you tell that guy, actually? You're not saying it here, dude.
I was to do something about it.
And the G.I. Joe characters are getting occultic too, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Phil, what is this called when they talk to the dead?
It's called necromology. That's the witchcraft and occult practices are not make-believe. They're taken from actual witchcraft, actual pagan religions, levitation, mind control, astral projection, and other forms of witchcraft ceremonies are portrayed within the cartoons.
All of these things are portrayed in the cartoons?
Yes, very much so.
Well, then we could suspect that there's some kind of a spiritual force behind these things to program our children.
Characters like Darth Vader, who look almost exactly like the ancient Norse god Odin. But there are some things about Smurfs that we need to look at. First of all, you know...
Okay, wait, this Smurf thing gets really morbid and weird. Like, maybe... See, I'm thinking, like, all the things that they're saying, necromancers and all this weird stuff, is actually his problems. Like, he's really into that. He's really into screwing dead bodies and, like, weird things because... I don't know how the hell he came... Smurfs were, like, one of my favorite things as a kid. Smurfs and Rainbow Bright. You don't touch my Rainbow Bright, you don't touch my Smurfs. But he turned the Smurfs into something really weird, and he comes back again and says something even more weird about the Smurfs. And I'm like, I don't know how you came up with that.
That they're depicted as blue with black lips.
Well, isn't that interesting?
And you know what happens to you when you die? You turn blue and your lips turn black.
In other words, these are depictive of dead creatures.
Right. You notice that she's wearing a cobra head.
I have no idea how the hell he came up with that. Like, they're almost like neon blue. Like, he's like, they're blue and they have black lips. So that's, like, they died. They're like dead creatures. It's like, what? So, and even if they were, like, what? But this next one, I swear I had this doll, and I forget which doll this is, but he starts sexualizing this doll, like, in a way, and I'm like, oh, you raped this doll, didn't you, dude? I don't know. I never looked at any of my dolls. I didn't look at him and go, oh, you know, I don't know, watch this.
Breastplate and has a cobra head staff in her hand. Now the cobra is the symbol for demonic power and protection. And this young lady is involved in witchcraft, and you'll notice that she's a very voluptuous looking thing, and they wear very tightly clad clothes and sometimes even negligee.
She did not wear negligee.
So there's a sensuality about the toys also.
Yes. And we saw in there that She-Ra was sent to the 6th dimension. We're talking about Eastern religion. I mean, everything that has taken its basis from Hinduism and other religions like that has been added into our toys and cartoons these days.
Now, you talk about Hinduism. Would we see anything like the martial arts or, yoga exercises? Well, we did see yoga exercises last week in Skeletor taking that position.
Now, this continues. Like, this clip that I'm pulling up is a shorter version of the very long one. There's like an hour or something of this. So I'll put the link to both of them in below. Now he gets into something that I swear to God, somebody must have trolled these guys, because I never heard of this. I never heard of this. And I swear somebody's trolling them. And they went on here and were like, oh yeah, this and that. And we're all laughing at this, because I'm like, I know all the weird stuff that they used to think. And this one, I don't know. I'm serious. I think somebody trolled them, and they went on TV and was like, oh, like, you could tell them anything. They're like, oh yeah, it's evil. Like, we see this sign of the devil, like, on, like, sweet and low packets. Oh no, we can't buy that anymore because they're trying to get us. Like, they lived in this paranoid state, and they wouldn't let their kids watch cartoons, dude. They only made them watch, like, TBN or whatever the hell was on back then, or bought their own, I don't know what the hell they made them. They wouldn't let them watch TV and stuff. Shit's crazy, dude.
To receive all 3 cassettes, the book, and the newspaper, simply request the Child Deception Offer.
And it's all about children.
Donation of
it's all about children.
Or more.
It's like a big
and do you remember those verses in the book of Revelation about the flying beast with the riders on them?
And then they bought all the toys too. You gotta love it. They're all playing with the toys.
This could actually be taken from Revelations.
Sure, it looks like it.
I cannot believe it.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there's a form of witchcraft called Obi witchcraft, in which chanting Obi, Obi, Obi over and over again releases the power into the witch's lives. And Yoda's called the Zen master. He's always seen with serpents around him, or serpents around him.
Yeah, look at the serpents around his neck there.
We have never heard of that. Odie witchcraft. Odie witchcraft. Where the hell did that come from? I don't know where that came from. If anybody remembers that, I mean, let me know, because I never heard of that. It's hilarious. I've never heard of that.
He's a three-fingered, three-toed beast. So he has the 2 fingers and the thumb, which from my information means Satan is Lord.
These things are occultic, they're accursed. They teach the children to get into spells and to witchcraft and to serve demon powers, and demon occultic pagan religions are, the mystic religions of the East are all propagated through this. That parents were buying all of these occultic toys, from grenades to gum that you chew that's supposed to be shrapnel.
Yeah. And people say, well, the Bible is a violent book. But if you look at the Bible, the violence took place over hundreds of years.
And I pray in the name of Jesus today that any of you that have this bondage in your household, your children are rebellious and being drawn by these things, I pray in Jesus' name that God would break that bondage today. No.
See, there's where it is. Where they're like, if your children are rebellious. See, that stuff was the stuff that was pounded out. We were talking about how they left the children on the street, kept throwing them out and everything, because they're rebellious, Satanist, demonic children. This is what they did. And they're still alive. A lot of these older people are still alive. And they're going on like, oh, we're for trying to save the kids from human trafficking. And they're the ones that threw their kids to human traffickers. You're evil, demonic children. You're gay. We can't have it. Oh, wait. I think this is coming up.
What you're telling me then is that even Smurfs carry a homosexual connotation, in that most of them are male.
I believe so. Yes, it was a camouflage occult movie, including levitation, psychic healing, mind control, mental telepathy, that type of thing. E.T. also included some inferences to homosexuality.
And we put the blood of Jesus over you, your family, and your children. God bless you now from the eagle's nest.
Yeah, so now, the Smurfs and E.T. are homosexuals. If he's thinking about that, these guys, that guy in particular, very well is probably gay as a motherfucker. Because I don't know where that came from. Oh, all these guys hang out. And somebody pointed out, and it was so funny, he's like, so Jesus and his disciples, there's a lot of men there. That's what he was trying to say. He's like, there's all the Smurfs have all men, and then there's like one female Smurf. He's like, yep, they're all gay. And E.T., I don't know how he turned gay. I guess because he's not very, what they consider masculine. He's a damn fake alien that's not real. He somehow is gay. Homosexual. So they were teaching everybody on here, you know, like, that's bad, that's evil, because that's what they're talking about. Oh, he's homosexual, this is bad. And this is still going on right now with these people. Like, they're kind of like I want to say they're a dying breed. I'm hoping they are. They're kind of like now sort of the parody. They're kind of a parody. Like, they have Right Wing Watch, right? Which is basically the leftover of these people, where other people have moved away from this crazy shit. You know, it's like after, like, real life, like, knocks them down, and they realize, oh, you know what, yeah, this is probably not the best way to think. You know, because they may have lost kids from things. Everybody's finding out all their kids are gay. And then, you know, all this stuff is so crazy. And I don't know how, I don't know. I'm going to go see on this other one, where they go, what do they say about fucking Rainbow Bright, dude? Okay, we'll start there again. We gotta hear that.
Is there anything occultic or dangerous about Smurfs?
Well, Smurfs happens to be the most popular Saturday morning cartoon since the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner
If
hour.
it's popular, it's evil.
It's just entered into a long-term run, and it's hit an hour and a half on Saturday morning cartoons. But there are some things about Smurfs that we need to look at. First of all, you'll notice that they're depicted as blue with black lips.
Okay, so we already heard
that. Isn't that interesting?
And you know what happens to you when you die? You turn blue and your lips turn black.
In other words, these are depictive of dead creatures.
Right. And another thing is that Smurfs is an all-male community. And you say, oh, there's Smurfette. She's a female. Well, in one cartoon, she was depicted as transforming from a male to a female through magical power And so the only female in the Smurfs is transformed from a male. She was not born a female.
No, what you're telling me then is that even Smurfs carry a homosexual connotation in that most of them are male.
I believe so.
But we're not going to blatantly say that Smurfs are evil. We're just saying that they have all of these overtones that are leading that direction.
Well, let's take another look at Smurfs. Because the Smurfs cartoon, the whole storyline is that the Smurfs get in trouble. And every time they get in trouble, they run to Papa Smurf, who whips up a spell or an incantation to get them out. In fact, he said the name Beelzebub numerous times in the cartoon, and he whips up this spell or incantation and draws them out of their problems through witchcraft. And then they have an enemy called Gargamel. Now, Gargamel, in a recent episode, I saw him draw a 5-pointed star, the pentagram, on the ground.
Right.
He lit candles at each point, which is an actual witchcraft practice. He started to dance inside the pentagram, chanting a magical chant. At that point, a book opened up across the room, and something left the book and entered his physical body, giving him power to levitate and to do battle against the Smurfs.
Oh, no. So we can say that Smurfs has gone occultic.
Very much so.
Well, how about something innocuous like the Care Bears? Aren't they very popular?
With the Care
Well,
Bears.
Care Bears is very popular, and it was started by Hallmark Cards as a very innocent thing, and then they've licensed out, and some things have taken place in Care Bears that need to be talked about. And one of those things took place in the Care Bear movie.
If we could look at some slides of the Care Bears, maybe we could get an idea what we're talking about.
Now, this is in the Care Bear movie. Now, the little boy is an orphan, and he kind of goes to this circus, and he's being real mistreated, and he walks over to this table, and this book, a face comes out of it and calls him over and tempts him to open the book.
Right.
And he opens it up, and the face starts to talk to him and starts to teach him how to practice the occult.
In a Care Bear comic book?
Yes. And then he tries to go against the book, and again, you see the face coming out of the book. The occult book talks to him, guides him, leads him. You see him here looking over a cauldron, and what he's looking over the cauldron, he's looking to see the children and see what they're doing. And at the end, the Care Bears,
He's got to watch all these to get all this down.
use the Care Bear stare, which is a power beam coming from the center of their stomach. Now, what I'm seeing in Care Bears is almost like they're setting up their own religion, that children are to tell these Care Bears their problems instead of telling their God or mom and dad, and they're to depend on the Care Bears to take away all their troubles. And then we see the occult coming into the cartoon series.
Absolutely. I wonder if we might... How about Rainbow Bright? This is another figure that a lot of children are into.
Again, Rainbow Bright is a very humanistic type toy. It displays many humanistic and New Age symbols within it. They also do use magic inside Rainbow Bright.
Well, here's a Rainbow Bright cereal box. And, I mean, what are you saying about Rainbow Bright?
Again, it's a humanistic emblems and humanistic value system.
Well, the rainbow represents the networking of the New Age.
Right.
And it's interesting that she has a little 5-sided star on her cheek. I don't know if you can see that on the box,
yeah, the
but there's a little
now
5-sided star, and it's upside down, which I'm not going to say it's used in this depiction, but that's a pentagram again.
Yes.
And that's another New Age and occultic symbol. So we have to be careful even with... Rainbow Bright.
Yeah, and the cute toys need to be looked at too. We need to use discretion when we buy toys for our children.
Well, let's jump from the cute little toys into the robots and the transformers, as we call them. And I think what we ought to do is show a video cut of the robots and transformers. So let's come back after a short robot craze here. Now, Phil, we're talking about Voltron, and can you tell us real quickly who Voltron is?
Well, Voltron is a combination of 5 lion robots into 1 large robot. Again, he's going to defend the universe. And in this, they also have a witch within this cartoon. And there are a lot of occultic symbolisms within it, such as the stars and that type of thing.
Right. Well, let's go to another video clip
The
that shows a
stars
little
are
bit
evil,
of
even though they're in the
Voltron
sky.
and the witchcraft that's involved in these.
Voltron, you told me you destroyed Voltron.
We gotta keep showing
Well,
this
Phil,
cartoon.
there's no doubt that there's witchcraft here, and Voltron is
No
very
doubt,
similar to
witchcraft.
what we call the Transformer series, isn't he?
Yes, this is one of many robot series. Some of them are sexually oriented. Some of them have no occult or anything in it. The Transformers, I've not seen a cult in it yet, but it's an extremely violent show. And in fact, it's the only violent cartoon that actually shows killing in it that I've seen. And as we'll see in the next clip, you'll see someone get shot and killed.
Let's go into a video segment of the Transformers. Let's cut away right now.
Dude, that's not. And say we did. Okay, wait. The My Little Pony. I have to hear
One of
this.
the most innocent, if you could pick up that pony there,
Yeah,
is one called My Pony.
this
Now-
is My Pony.
Yeah, now if you walk through a toy store, and you walk into that toy store and you see these ponies, oh, they're cute. They're blue and they're purple and they're pastel colors and they're different ponies, and you notice they have like a rainbow colored in their hair, and they're just so cute.
Now,
you
wait a
know,
minute. This is not a pony, though. This is a unicorn.
Right, a unicorn. And the unicorn and Pegasus are used in this My Pony series, and a combination of the two. Now, both of those things came from mythologies. The Pegasus came from Greek mythology, and the unicorn came out of the Black Forest of Germany, and from that area and through the Dark Ages. Now, in one of the cartoons that featured My Pony, now this is supposed to be super cute, okay,
Yeah.
for little girls, we
Oh, no.
saw a Pan, which is a half man, half horse. He had horns coming out the side of his head, a huge thing,
Oh,
with an
no.
amulet around his neck, who kidnapped 3 of the ponies, and he's going to transform them to pull his chariot of darkness. And he takes open a bag and he says, "Look into evil." And out of that bag rushes a spirit power which transforms these 3 ponies into dragons. Now this is aimed at little girls and boys.
Oh my god. the
I can
horror.
see that we're actually destroying our children by letting them watch even the innocuous things because they're all going that direction.
Let me see if there's anything else. This will be the last, I'm sure.
These comic books into the house, if you allow them to have these toys or you buy them for them, you're going to be held responsible before God. God says not to bring an accursed thing into your house, lest you should be accursed as it is. These things are occultic, they're accursed. They teach the children to get into spells, into witchcraft, and to serve demon powers, and demon occultic pagan religions are, the mystic religions of the East are all propagated through this. And I pray in the name of Jesus today that any of you that have this bondage in your household, your children are rebellious and being drawn by these things, I pray in Jesus' name that God would break that bondage today. We loose it right now, and we put the blood of Jesus over you, your family, and your children. God bless you now from the eagle's nest.
Yeah, that was it. Yep, you can watch that. It's pretty nutty. Very nutty.